Hi, I'll try to answer the question about our values and shit. So, I'll actually go from the last message where we're talking about a future where you get the right candidate for the position without going through a bunch of charming people. So we're not toxic. We don't blame people for being able to talk and negotiate their way into positions in the companies. It's not people's faults that they know how to present themselves on interviews. So rather than pointing fingers at people who are good at interviews, we should remind people who choose to make hiring decisions based on interviews that perhaps that should not be the only signal, or maybe it should be maybe the interviews should be conducted differently. And this is why we propose to conduct interviews based on the technical task that the engineers have to solve prior to that, and then the soft skills part of the interview, where we see how charming a person is, how nice and kind the person is, and blah blah blah, would not inform hiring decision per se, but rather inform culture fit decision, which is a prerequisite for hiring, but it is not sufficient to hire an engineer, right? So I want to be crystal clear that we don't want to be toxic towards candidates. And conversely, we want to, if we really want, like if we would like to be toxic, right, then we would probably be toxic towards half of them. Meaning we would be toxic. The only reason I think we can allow ourselves to be toxic in our marketing towards candidates is to say to the hobbyists, look, you know that you're better than half of the established industrial developers because you're very enthusiastic about this technology, and our system lets you prove it. Lets you prove that you are ready for industrial work, even with an empty resume, with an empty CV. I think this is the only place where we can, if we really want to be toxic, we can allow ourselves to be toxic. But I'm also not too happy. I don't think that as I said before, blaming people for being capable of passing interviews is a fair thing to do. Okay, now let me backtrack to the previous question about values. So that's a very loaded question, and gladly I have an answer to it. So we have this thing somewhere far away. Oh, fuck it. Let me just do this. So there is one big idea of everything that we're doing, technically speaking. And the big idea is that we understand the things we make as computer programmers. As systems. And we have no problem with figuring, this is a system. But as an industry, as a community of software engineers, we fail to recognize the fact that that us making this system there are many people working on the system. Maybe this person has one view of the system and is really specializing on this square. Maybe another person is a manager, so they have like a bigger view, but it's still some sort of a projection. No one ever can capture the whole system in their mind. Maybe someone else is only focused on like the way that components interact with each other in a system. But what we fail to recognize, or at least majority, or at least we fail to formalize, right, is that, and obviously they're not just these three stakeholders, right? There are also people outside the system on the customer side, for example, that interact with the system, right? Maybe this person also interacts with the system. But anyway, there are many more positions here, and there are many more positions here that a person can assume when we talk about systems. Software systems, right? This is software system. So what is underappreciated or unformalized or unrecognized is the fact that this is the system itself. Which means that all of the, or many of the tools that we use to talk about software systems can also be applied to the way that software systems are made. And there are a bunch of concrete examples. For instance, kind of benchmarking and data science, like analysis of data analysis, right? Like if we know that this like we know how to measure performance of systems, of software systems, but also we develop software systems using something called distributed revision control systems. For example, Git is one, and all the actions that interact with, that change the system, made by anyone, by any actor, are registered in this Git history. So something that I personally do for a long time is I use something called Git temporal, which visualizes Git repositories, and it can tell us how will performance of a team working on a software system behave over time. So this is one of the things that are one of the examples of our big idea, and our big idea is to live in the world to live in a world where the fact that building software systems is a system and fuck itself is not just recognized but also utilized. So, and obviously so we have this company called Doma, and basically this is what we want. One of the big thing that we want to facilitate, right? So we want to work on that, and thus ZeroHR trivially contributes to it. So ZeroHR says that one of the things that we need for this big idea to happen is we need to understand whom we hire, who are the people or person or people. By the way, this can be one real person, right? Filling these two roles, two positions, yeah. So who are the people whom we let into our situation of developing software systems, right? Because now if we know that these people are all right, it means that, for example, the benchmark thing that I mentioned will generate very good signal, right? If we know that the performance of people doesn't create significant outliers, and if we look at one system being developed, we see it being developed by competent people, frankly speaking, and the other one is also developed by competent people. Now we can compare the differences in the way that systems were developed historically and gain insight from that. Again, gaining insight or benchmarking of making systems is just one of the examples of what I called independently from DDD people, and I'm very excited about it, because when you independently discover something, it's a very good, it's a green flag. It means that probably there's really something there. So I independently came up with the idea of sociotechnical or sociotechnologic processes. So when I'm talking about this benchmarking with Git, I'm talking about just one possible aspect of living in the world where we appreciate the system nature of socio-technical processes. So ZeroHR thus contributes completely to this big idea that we have, and in a way, we're a mission-driven company, right? Where our mission is this, and ZeroHR is one of products, one of many products, hopefully, to bring the world closer to our ideal, to our the better state that we have in our vision. Specifically for ZeroHR, there is also a vision, right? So this is the big thing. Specifically for ZeroHR, there is something different, something a little bit more down to earth. So with ZeroHR, we already know how to. So what ZeroHR does is very in line with this stuff, right? It is rooted in the real world. So what it does is there is a massive volume of information about how stuff is done in the industry. There's countless amount of data points for any subject you can pick. You can find systems that do what you have in mind on GitHub in open source. Many are MIT licensed, yeah. And you can do some analyses, plural, on these, picking some commonalities, for example, between medium systems, or some commonalities between the best systems known. Maybe learning what stopped some people from completing a system that is like the one that you have in mind. And you can, of course, distill best practices. And you can find things that are present in all of the systems. Well, this is not going to be best practices. This is going to be like kind of whatever. It's kind of secret sauce for secrets of success or something, or advanced tricks, right? And then this will be best practices, right? And this would be like things to avoid, right? This is just one. This is a very schematic example of what we call industrial analysis of industrial reality. This is what we do when we have. This is what I've done, for example, when we had interest from a potential customer with whom we need to start following up in Scala. Like, I didn't know anything about Scala. I literally looked at like many projects and have done this analysis, right? And we know how to do this analysis. Our task engineers know how to do this analysis, and this is part of our kind of secret sauce, part of our value add, is that we were thinking about it since 2018, right? So once this stuff is performed, Now what we already can do. Now what we already are doing actively. So looking at this stuff, right? From this manifold, right? It creates a a system where there are best practices, and then there are when there are advanced things. Shit, I should have written it like this. When there are best practices, advanced things, and intentionally inserted kind of bad things, right? And now the candidate's idea, like the idea is that the candidate should detect the shitty things, remedy them, and create a solution to some problem. Yeah, and in the middle here we put in a problem. So this is the problem that the candidate has to solve. And what we call this a model, an industrial model. That's kind of cute. I have this concept of ships in a bottle. So if you think about what is going on here, you see that we take, the industrial practices, sheep, so real sheep, and then we put it in a bottle, right? We create it in miniature and put it in the bottle. This is basically what ZeroHR is currently doing. We do have a plan that I call ships in the dockyard, where instead of doing all this hard stuff with industrial modeling and shit, what we do is we find a particularly great one, or maybe one that is not the best, but at least contains all the best practices for sure. So we take this, and then we just basically insert our test task into this huge system. Right, so in reality, like in practice, it's going to be huge. Right, and then we find something. Interesting here, somewhere. Kind of drill into there. We maybe insert some bugs around it. And then we insert a problem there. The size of the problem should be always the same. Should be always small, because our test tasks have to be completable in 1 hour. So this is something that I want to experiment with. So this is sheep in a bottle. This is sheep in a dockyard. These are the things for fucking hell, come on. These are the ideas for the future, yeah. Ship in a dockyard. And but a huge, great ambition, which is so this is very tactical. We know how to make this happen. It's easy. This is already done, right? And we know how to do. But something that we are looking to develop over the course of several years is take this and turn it into analysis of non-technical stuff. It kind of goes beyond our idea, our vision for software systems, because we want to change the software industry rather than the world. But nonetheless, kind of non-tech gamification of gamification of non-tech positions ranking is I think doable. I have a vision for this. The bridge between what we have already and the non-tech thing would be doing UI UX, which I already have verified is possible. There is a topic on Zulip about it. It is inspired by a great book about the laws of UX, and you can even automatically check the quality of work under some theorems that are fundamental for UX and UI. So this would be the bridge to the future for us. This is vision for ZeroHR. In terms of values, I already mentioned that I don't mind toxicity, to be honest. I don't think that there is a place for toxicity at work, but I think that toxic marketing sometimes works. Yeah. Paula, I think, has a bit of a different opinion. I think that she is a bit more hesitant to be toxic and to scare people off. And I have no problem with dialing down toxicity, right? This is something I already talked about, and there is a very practical example for this, which for me is fine, but Paula doesn't agree. So the idea that, okay, you can use ZeroHR to rank candidates, yeah, but you can also use ZeroHR as a signal to inform your hiring decisions, but you can also use ZeroHR as a signal to inform your firing decisions, yeah. And this is something that I'm okay with marketing, but Paula says that it's hard to even talk about to the customers. So I guess this answers the question of how evil we want to position ourselves, and the answer is not evil at all, right? If you notice our marketing materials that I wrote by now, you will see that even though I have, this is how I approach talking to potential customers as well. Even though I have complete conviction in the fact that ZeroHR as it is generates enough signal for, enough hiring signal to make good hiring decisions based on the outcome of the tests alone, I never say it. I always say that we just know that we generate good signal that can augment, the thoughts of like your technical department and blah blah blah. And it's not even about being scared to take the responsibility for the signal that we generate, because I'm not scared at all. As I said, I have a complete conviction that it will work. It's about kind of being at this stage where we are, being able to break through the gap, what is called the gap, and there's a guy who came up with the gap theory for sales. So you can't, without reference points, without familiarity, you will not be able to punch through for someone to make a buying decision. We have to make sure that they still have the comfort of knowing that they make the decision, and they just generate signal, they just generate some numbers using our tool. So yeah, I guess that the tone should be humble. I like, I'm pretty sure that I wrote about the tone in Zulip. I think that I won't be able to on the spot trump what I have formulated a while ago after a bunch of thinking. But yes, assertive, humble, and full of conviction, I think I wrote. I think that this is our tone. Our values are just building better software, and I think that with Doma, when it comes to consultancy, when it comes to consulting people, our biggest value is budget friendliness. How we can make systems that big software consultancies can't even dream of making at a fraction of the cost, because we know what sort of tools are efficient to use in software design and software systems engineering. When it comes to ZeroHR, I think our I think that our biggest value is helping the underdogs, because we're helping small and medium businesses to hire as well as Google, right? On one hand, and on the other hand, we're helping people who want to break into the industry, prove that they are worthy of having an industrial position. And I know that it sounds like industrial programming is like the pinnacle, is what we are aspiring for, and this is absolutely not true. There are many hobbyists who are okay with having programming as their hobby, who are making some, like, I don't know, Amiga games or Sega games, retro computing and stuff like this, which is beautiful, right? But it's a completely different field of human activity than industrial programming. So when I say worthy, perhaps I'm using a wrong word. Perhaps what I mean is that they're compatible with the reality of industrial programming. I guess this is our biggest value. Our vision is to let every company make quantified hiring decisions. And our grand vision is to live in the world where, we're building, the process of building software systems is treated as a system itself. And this fact is utilized as well. So acted upon. I guess that's about it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.